In this video, I want to share 5 things I wish I had known when I first started my career. I was just having dinner with a friend, and she mentioned to me that her son is feeling quite lost because he is about to graduate and doesn't know what field to get into and what skills to develop. And this is especially true for a lot of young people, and I keep bumping into readers and podcast listeners that many of you are feeling quite anxious about the future because of AI. And after spending close to 20 years in the industry and developing my career from a small company to growing my career to becoming one of the business advisors at Microsoft, the biggest tech company, I think there are 5 areas which have helped me supercharge my career. And even though the day and age of today is very different compared to 20 years ago, I think these 5 areas are universal and should stand the test of time. So I want to share that with you. So for those of you whom we have not met before, my name's Aaron, and I was born and raised in Hong Kong. And at age 18, I had an opportunity to study abroad. So I went to Sydney, and at the time, it felt like I was making the biggest decision in my life. That decision was to choose my major. I thought I had to get that right. So I had no idea what I wanted to become. Eventually, I nailed down to 3 choices. Had medicine, or and actuarial studies. Actually, they call it actuarial science now. So I didn't pick medical. I didn't pick medicine because I'm actually scared of blood. So that was an easy choice for me. And for medicine, I thought 6 to 7 years was just too long. So I decided to go for the shortcut and actually pay the painful price for choosing something that I didn't quite enjoy. And also at that time, because 2 of my cousins were doing quite well in insurance company, and I was really eager to graduate and go out there and start making money. So I actually ended up choosing actuarial science. And after studying that for 12 months, I realized I had no passion for that, and I decided to change my major completely, and I switched my major to marketing and management. So why am I telling you all this? Because when I was doing actuarial science, I actually didn't have to speak much. But as soon as I switched my major from actuarial science to marketing, all of a sudden I had to present ideas and do a lot of on-the-spot speaking in front of the whole class. And that was when I realized that I actually had public speaking anxiety. And a common symptom would be I would stand in front of a class and I would start stuttering and I would just start sweating from head to toes. So I had to work on my communication. So the first area that I shared with this lady was we don't need to be a perfect speaker, but we need to be perfectly acceptable in communication so that we can build meaningful relationship and that we can articulate our ideas to other people. So what did I do? So after I realized that I was an extremely nervous speaker, I started applying for frontline jobs, which would give me the opportunity to work on my confidence. So the very first frontline job that I applied for was actually a job in a Taiwanese bubble tea shop. So I applied and became a juicer at the busiest train station called Town Hall in Sydney. And I stayed there, and I would have to memorize close to 80 recipes at a time. And I'll be serving drinks, putting myself in pressure in that situation. And after that job, I then applied. My second job was at a call center. So I applied for a job at a call center because I wanted to work on my confidence. And the biggest learning after working at that call center, and I started as one of the underperformers and sort of worked my way up gradually. And it didn't happen overnight. It took days and months of practices. But the biggest learning that I learned from working at a call center is the ability not to take rejection personally. If for those of you who have worked at a call center, and you would know that it's a very difficult job. And most people that I came across with back in the day would quit their job within days, within hours, within weeks. And I managed to stay there in 18 months. And basically all the challenges that you imagine in your head, being called names, being sworn at, profanity, people swear at you, I had to face all that. And some of the worst comments I used to get would be like, "You're a fob," fresh off the boat, because they could tell from my accent. Or they would just say, "Go back to where you're from." And I had to learn how not to take these rejections personally and be able to carry on my job. And that was one of the biggest learning that I got from call center. And I actually love every single minute of it. And the third full-time job that I managed to get was I became a sales assistant in Esprit in both Sydney and Hong Kong. And that was also to force myself to be comfortable with making small talks with customers that just walk into the store. And sometimes I'll get questions like, which color is better? Is black better or white better? And most of the time I had no idea. But then I had to think on the spot and turn their question into another question. Then I'll ask them back, so what type of clothing do you have at home? Do you have mostly black or do you have mostly white? What occasion are you buying for? So, you start developing these skills to make small talks with strangers. So those are the three of the many frontline jobs that I've applied for to try to work on my communication skill. So if you're thinking about developing a career or if you feel stuck in career transition, communication is definitely one of the areas that I will recommend you to spend more time in. The second area that I would talk about now is, of course, digital AI. I actually started running my internet businesses when I was in college. My first internet business was in trading mobile phones. So I actually set up a website and I did a lot of research looking at popular models, phone models in Asia and what weren't available at that time in Australia. And then I would set up a website, as people call it drop shipping now. So basically I'll do order upfront, and after people order it, and then I'll order it from overseas and ship it directly over to the customers. And other than that, I also had a website where it was an aggregator, and I combined all the different search results from different search engines. And back in the day, because Google hadn't have the primary market share yet, and we still have Bing and Yahoo. So I actually hired a team to put 3 different types of search engine results together, and we called it an aggregator. There was another project that I was actually selling adult lingerie. And then I had another business where I was doing online marketing. So the digital and AI skills is the second area that I encourage young people to do. And in this day and age, you will see there are so many videos, so many different AI tools talking about productivity gain, talking about creativity, trying to streamline your processes. What is very important is that we don't just watch and read whatever is coming our way. We learn it, adapt it, and then try to share with other people. Because if you haven't come across this concept, there's a concept called learning pyramid. And basically what the learning pyramid is saying that we retain 90% of our knowledge not by reading or learning or going to lectures. We retain most of our knowledge by learning, adapting, and also sharing the knowledge with other people. That's when we retain most of our knowledge. So when it comes to digital AI skills, especially in this day and age, don't just watch a viral video about this new cool AI tool. Download it, use it, try to use it, adapt it, integrate in your life. And once you have done it, actively share with other people how that has helped you. And that will really help you retain your knowledge. So I started my career as an online marketing coordinator. And back in the day, because I chose marketing and management as a major, my dream was to join one of the big 3 consulting companies, Bain, McKinsey, and BCG. Unfortunately, I sent thousands of applications and I never really heard back from them. And what I realized was that all these companies had a career path, which was project management. So I decided to specialize in project management. What would be interesting is that, and when I turned 37, I actually got my first offer from McKinsey, which I rejected 3 times. So one of the advices that I give to a lot of people is that there's no such thing as good candidate or bad candidate. So never take a rejection personally. There's just good fit and not a good fit. So this is just a word of encouragement. If you are facing rejection and if you're not getting job interviews, never take things personally. And that has been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned too along the way. So in the first 6 years of my career, I decided to specialize in project management. So the third area that I encourage people to think about is to really strengthen your execution ability. So I managed to get certified in different project management methodologies like Prince2 and PMP, which are quite popular back in the day when I first started specializing in project management. And then in about 6 years in, I remember I was trying to work myself up. And I started working for this small company, and then gradually I went from a medium-sized company to working with one of the largest digital agencies in Australia. And at that time, my desire was to go and start managing bigger projects, which means bigger budget, more stakeholders, and bigger scope. So eventually I got an opportunity to work as a project lead in one of the biggest manufacturing companies in Australia. So I got a contractor role. And at that time, that company was going through a merger. And I was one of the many project leads leading a very big program. So I actually managed to stay there for 2 months before I got fired. And the reason why I got fired was because of my prior experience working at an agency. There was a particular request that I was asking my counterparty, which was a project manager, to do, but she wasn't willing to fulfill my task. And I tried a few times and she still wouldn't do it. And eventually I became more and more assertive and harsh in my tone. And I actually sent her an email one day asking her, why wouldn't you do that? And she escalated that to her boss, and his boss gave a call to the IT director, and I was called into the room, and the next thing I know, I was fired on the spot. It was actually a very challenging time. It was my first time getting fired from my job, and I didn't know what to do. And at first, I was trying to be frank about it, and what I then realized was that actually it was very difficult to get an interview opportunity because a lot of people thought that even though I scored a few fast promotions in the previous companies, as soon as they heard that I was fired in less than 3 months at a new job, nobody wanted to interview me anymore. So what I then decided to do was I actually took that out from the resume. And to make myself responsible for what had happened there, I realized that even though I got into project management and I started leading small teams, I realized I never had training working with people. So that was when I decided to transition myself into a people consultancy, a HR consultancy. So I ended up getting a job with a US psychometric assessment company, and I became one of the project leader, helping them to put in place a project management office. And because of that opportunity, I got direct exposure working closely with psychologists, organizational psychologists, and HR coaches to learn from them how to work with people. So I ended up working with the largest banks in Australia and basically learning firsthand how to do assessment centers for new recruits, how to do development centers for high potential. And I ended up getting certified in a number of psychometrics assessments as well. So the fourth area that I strongly encourage people to think about is pick an area where it will expose you to working with different stakeholders and basically give you the spotlight to deal with different people issues. And after that job at the HR consultancy, I was in my early 30s, stayed there for 5 years, and I decided to become an entrepreneur again, which I will probably have to record another video just to talk about this. So my first 6 years of my career, I was in execution. I was doing project management. The second stage of my career, I was doing people consultancy, people transformation project. And the last leg of my career, I started working with Big Four, including Deloitte, EY, and I also got a gig where I had to lead the Hong Kong team of a big unicorn, which they call themselves Uber for logistics. So I also stayed there and learned about how to run teams and build company from ground up in the local market here. And then after that, I had an opportunity to join Microsoft and became one of the advisors, where I was running a lot of workshops and executive interviews, doing one-on-one directly with executives and putting big teams together to try to help them realize the roadmap. And using that workshop setting would invite people like our partners, technicians, salespeople, and also the business stakeholders all in the run room. And then we'll get them to talk about, okay, what's the vision for the company and what are some of the technical capabilities we need, and within the Microsoft ecosystem, who can help us enable that. So the last area that I encourage people to think about is what I call, so once you've got the execution capability, once you've got a people capability, the last step is really to develop your problem solving, your conceptual thinking by working on strategic projects and by dealing with different senior stakeholders. So to go back to the dinner conversation that I had with that lady, so those are the 5 areas that I share with her, and the 5 key areas that I think everyone needs to master in this day and age with a lot of AI disruption. And those 5 areas are mastering your digital and AI skills, being great in communication, both in articulating your ideas and also building deep relationship. Be super good in executing projects and master how you deal with different personalities and different people dynamics. And the last one is knowing business, and don't just stay in one functional area, because as a generalist and having worked with several functional roles across many different industries for the past 20 years, what I realized is that the more functional expertise and industries that you're exposed to, the more foolproof you are, basically. So you are, for example, if you spend a lot of time in just one industry, and if that industry or if that particular function is going through a disruption, then all of a sudden it's almost like you have nothing to fall back on. So I think this is probably one of the benefits being a generalist, because you have knowledge in so many different functional areas and different industries. You have the ability to transition very quickly. Perhaps it's also a gift from working in consulting as well, because when you work in consulting, usually you just worked on what the firm is giving you. So and most of the time you actually don't have a choice to say that which industries you want to work in. So I hope this video has been useful, and that these 5 areas would help you think about if you feel like you're stuck in your career transition, or if you're about to start your career. Really prioritize and think about how you're going to go these 5 areas, which can help you future-proof your career. And if you have any questions about related to career or job interview, feel free to leave me a comment below, and I would love to know what questions you have and what you think of this video too. Thank you.